Hi, this is Kristen. Welcome back to this series about alcohol and alcohol problems. I wanted to make a video about how relationships are affected by someone's alcohol problem, but I realized I probably should first make a video about how the personality changes over time, because that's going to be what everyone is encountering when someone has developed an alcohol problem and it's progressed over time. The personality will have changed. There will be ways in which the person behaves, how they interact with people, how they feel, that will then be what occurs in relationship to others. So I wanted to go over how I've come to see this, how I speak about it. I speak about it in a way that is a way that I've come up with. It's not something I've necessarily read about in the literature about this problem or things that I've learned in trainings. It's based on my own many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of conversations with people struggling with this problem, watching personalities change from, usually it goes from worse to better as recovery takes root and is lengthened over time. And it's also based on many conversations with clients who are dealing with someone with this problem, or family members, spouses, children of people with this problem. So I want to use the word ego. It is not necessarily, it's not really the formulation of Freud. This would be more the word ego that is used by, I want to say it's used in this way a lot of times by spiritual teachers when they're discussing, there's a personality that develops in this world of separation. It's separate from God or separate from the all or the all connectedness of everything. It's different than the opposite, which would be being, right? So if we had like two categories here, we have an ego or a personality that develops over time in life. We all do. And we could say the personality or the persona or the ego self has a name, a gender, a job, a history, a very specific history. It has interests, it has beliefs, ways of thinking, ways of behaving, achievements. There's all these things that we could say identity, right? Okay, so this is how I'm speaking about ego when I use the word ego. The other side of that would be more described as beingness or presence, kind of pure presence. A person is present, experiencing life in the now moment, without necessarily being dominated by the character that they present to the world. They are not necessarily in their thinking mind that has been conditioned over the lifespan, but they could be said to be present, observing. We could say that is often termed the observer self. And you could kind of get in touch with that yourself by thinking about how you might be watching the video. You're aware that you're watching a video. There's a part of you that's aware that you're aware of the video. And that part may feel a little bit behind the part that engages with the world. We could say that's the observer aspect of you that's connected to the infinite. So, what I've noticed is that as a person's alcohol problem progresses over time, their ego self, their personality, their identity starts to become more and more egoic, more ego. So they are less present, and they are more in a state of feeling separate and at odds with everything in life and the world and everything that's happening. There's a sense of me against the world, me and alcohol against the world, but certainly me against the world and the world against me and everything against me. And there comes to be this very combative, fight-like approach to life. And it could be fight like overtly volatile and aggressive and big and taking action to fight and make things be different. It could also be fight or conflict in that the person just simply feels victimized all the time. Like the world is just against them all the time. And so it becomes increasingly difficult to reach a reasonable, balanced person in there as time goes by. Because what it starts to look like is, and this is, I'm not saying anything really wacky here, this is just how it looks and feels as you interact with a lot of people with this problem, as you try to communicate with them, right? Especially someone in my role. If people are coming to me, they haven't yet stopped drinking, but they're contemplating stopping drinking. In my job, I'm obviously trying to reach such one with my words, ideas, concepts, teaching, enlightening them to how this thing works, right? But what I sense over and over again, it's as if, we could say, the personality of alcohol gets in the way. It gets between me and the person. So that responses made to me are more about defense of maintaining alcohol's presence in their life at all costs and against all odds. Even though the person is there to get help, the responses are as if there's like a sense of, let me find some way to solve all these problems, solve all the problems out here, but maintain alcohol in my life somehow, some way. And so there's a lot of defense that is there, blocking information. The ego becomes highly defended. Things become very easily triggering to the person. They're offended easily about things. Trying to think how else this manifests. It's the primary thing, it seems to me, is that there is a me against the world feeling that the person is experiencing. And there's the overtaking of how they think that's already gotten rooted in there. Like I described in other videos, there are real changes that take place in the brain, the nervous system, and how the nervous system is now functioning and when it gets activated into a more fight or flight state, and how the person might be just overall always feeling on edge and threatened in every environment. And so if that's the case, then we know that the way in which the thoughts arise are going to more so support and be about all of that inner world stuff that is being felt and experienced. So oftentimes, this is the presentation. It's defense, it's blocking new information, it's deflection of anything, batting ideas away, dishonesty that isn't even intended, almost inaccurate communication, inaccurate reporting basically about things, because the urgent thing is that alcohol's presence be maintained in the person. I don't believe most people think that through in that way that I'm saying it. I'm saying it very directly, but I don't believe that there's that thought in the person's mind. I must protect alcohol's presence in my life. I don't think it's thought like that. It's just that there's a sense of urgency and defense that can, in effect, protect alcohol and point outward. Well, no, there's this problem. They shouldn't have done X, Y, Z. And well, it was that guy because he didn't turn left when his left blinker was on. And this thing over here happened because my boss is a jerk. And you see, and there's all this, it's all out there, the problems. And it's just that they have bad luck. And so you can see in that way of formulating stories about things, where's alcohol in that? When an outside observer would say, well, the reason that happened is you were drunk at work, or you were brain fogged at work for 3 months in a row, or you were under the influence or way too tired when you were driving and then this happened, or you forgot to show up at the date that you said you were going to go on with your girlfriend, or you forgot to go to the game of your kid, or because of alcohol. And so outside observers can very plainly see that there's one source of all the problems, but the person, due to the changes that have taken place and the way they are now thinking and the way their personality has now become very rigidly a highly defended and sometimes highly attacking personality, they're not experiencing it like that. They're not seeing it that way. Another feature I've noticed in this development of what starts happening here is that in this kind of combative mode that the person's in with life and with the world, there's a sense that they're all trying to take alcohol away from me. It could even feel like an authority figure. So if someone has problems with authority, this can really easily get going in this way where there's a high resistance to even contemplating taking alcohol away from them, just because of the fact that they are all telling me that I've got to stop drinking, and they're all trying to control me, and I can't have that. And in this also, obviously, what's being protected? Alcohol's presence in the person's life is being protected, and there's no regard for anything else, including the person. But the person can't even get beyond that layer to see that that's what's happening, because they're very highly focused on the sense of resistance in that way. that someone's trying to control me, deprive me of alcohol, and that isn't fair, and screw them because they drink, so why should I not be able to drink? And you see how the focus is now, 2 or 3 steps away from the source of the problem. And I believe this is probably largely due to the changes that have taken place in the brain and in the nervous system, because once the fight or flight mechanism is now back on and it's activated, that's a real sense of urgency. So if we're just talking about one conversation, they're gonna, win the battle, lose the war type thing, right? Because they're gonna go all in on this argument, even if it makes no sense, just out of that sense of urgency that's there in their nervous system, right? So, yeah. So that's some of the ways the personality starts to devolve into this into a personality that's very difficult to reach. Yeah. So hopefully that's somewhat informative for you. Hopefully I'm saying things in a way that's maybe a little bit different than you've heard before. And thank you for watching. I will be making a video soon about how relationships are affected by the problem of alcohol. Thank you.